Well, folks, thanks so much for tuning in again here at the start of the week, and you're continuing to join with people who more and more are focusing in on the day-to-day broadcasts here, because many of the stories that we unearthed and we start with 2-3 weeks ago or more finally start to bubble up into mainstream media as they realize that these are things that people are actually concerned about. So we'll keep giving you the news that matters, but with a sneak peek behind the scenes. Everybody, of course, is talking about on Canada, the U.S., the men's Olympics. The Olympics is worn down now, and the men's hockey game, whatever side you're on, one of the stunning games of all time. Absolutely fantastic. And the one thing that really gets carried away is some of the political reaction and people forgetting that this is a game, and it goes right to the top, prime ministers and presidents. And remember, it was the Prime Minister of Canada, it was just former Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, who really started the war of words back in 2025. Remember, there was a thing called the Four Nations Cup. That was obviously a contest between four nations. Canada won. And then former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau posted this really provocative statement saying, you can't take our country, you can't take our game. And he was really raising this thing from a fantastic hockey series to, international control of Canada. That's already spiked it. So of course you're going to get President Donald Trump responding in kind when the U.S. wins. Keep in mind now the power of the game, by the way, which Canada introduced to the world many, many years ago. So here you have a group of young multimillionaires. Most of them are millionaires now. And after they play for several years in hockey, a few to several years, most of them will never have to work again, which is great. I appreciate that. They also will move from city to city, depending on whoever gives them the highest salary. And they play on average about 10 minutes a game, and their shifts are about 55 seconds in length. In spite of all of that, fantastic. It shows the strength of the game that they can put all that aside, and it's all about heart and playing your heart out and going for gold. It's absolutely fantastic, and we watched it happen. Something to keep in mind here as Canadians, of course, we just feel terrible that we lost. And sometimes we can overlook what it means to the other team. Take a few things. A terrible slashing penalty that Canada took, awful thing, smashed the U.S. player Jack Hughes in the face, knocked out a couple of his teeth, blood all over the rink. And very interesting, great story that it's Jack Hughes that comes back. He doesn't leave the game, comes back, scores the winning goal. There's a lot of talk already about the World Cup coming up next year and where that's going to be played and everything else. But we know very well in soccer, or as you might want to call it, football, anytime a player even gets touched by another player, they collapse on the field, they writhe around in pain. You think they've been shot or speared. Hockey is different. It doesn't matter if you get bloodied, you get your teeth knocked out, up you get, and you play on. So those differences are not lost on hockey fans everywhere. And look at the human interest story on the U.S. side. Johnny Gaudreau, of course, he had been known as Mr. Hockey. And back late 2024, tragically killed along with his brother. They were riding their bikes, and a drunk driver hit them, kills them both. He had already been named to be on the team. He was supposed to be on the team. Great motivation for the U.S. players. And you saw his name and number being held up. And then in the final, when they win, I think it's the first ever time you see a shot, the sprawling shot of the winners. They're all on the ice, and there's kids in there. Those are Johnny Gaudreau's kids. I think you might want to fact check this. One of them, it was his actual birthday. Great story there. Let's go with the greatness of the game and how it rises above money, it rises above politics, and let's not get too carried away with all of that. Well, our Prime Minister in Canada continues to push us away from the United States, away from doing business with the U.S., convincing Canadians that the U.S. is a bad place to go. And where does he encourage us to go? By talking more and more about Mexico. And Mexico now, of course, is in a terrible situation, and Canadians being told to shelter in place where they are because of the devastation that goes on there. Our Prime Minister pushes us more towards China and to Cuba, both of which are sending resources and troops by the thousands to Russia to kill Ukrainians. So we have to start wondering the direction of the federal liberal government pushing us away from the United States and to these other far more dangerous countries, which really don't have the same values as we do in Canada. I am not for tariffs. I don't like tariffs at all. I think the tariff war is unfortunate, and the Supreme Court in the U.S. has ruled against the tariffs that Trump had imposed. Right away, he came out with new ones, 10 to 15%, right across the world. But keep in mind that for Canada, it's been said, and even President Trump said, this new level of tariffs, the 10 to 15%, is not going to affect that trade that is governed by the Canada-U.S.-Mexico trade agreement. So great news there. It's going to expose the Canadian government because much of the Canadian federal Liberal government's radical increase in spending has been predicated on the fact that we've got these terrible tariffs. Now the tariffs are being taken away. It's going to get back to good old-fashioned trade negotiations. Let's hope that we can settle that down. And let's hope for the people of Mexico they get that settled down too. El Mencho is the name of the drug lord who basically rules Mexico. He replaced El Chapo, if you remember all the terrible stuff around El Chapo. El Mencho, you know, he even his new the entire drug regime that runs Mexico, new cartel. It's called New Generation because El Mencho wants to bring in a whole new generation of drug-addicted people in Canada and mainly in the U.S. So keep that in mind. This guy was responsible for the death every year of tens of thousands of people, not only in the drug trade, the sex trade, the slave trade. And let's not somehow romanticize this guy, and I hope Mexico is able to overcome the terrible situation they've got. That particular drug cartel, as some are saying, more weapons than the Mexican government. They outgun the police, and terrible things happening there as we continue to see how that is all going to roll out. The situation too related to what's in terms of opportunities in the U.S. for investment. There's a breaking opportunity here, and mainstream media has not really touched on this, but this could be a real game changer. There's an organization, an investing company called Power Law Corporation. You want to check this out because up until now, even right up till now of time of speaking, small-time retail investors, that'd be people like you and me largely, wanting to invest in some of the huge possibilities with OpenAI and all of the AI investment that's going on. If you notice, those are private companies. OpenAI, for instance, is a private company. And so if you want to invest there, there's rules about that. You have to be a so-called sophisticated investor. In many cases, you have to have over $1 million to invest. And so, whereas AI, of course, is attracting billions of dollars of investment, what's called the average investor, a person like you or like me, has not been able to do that because they are private company, not on the public market there. So what has happened here is Power Law Corporation has come along, and they're applied now to the regulators to open a fund where they, as Power Law Corporation, they will do the investing into the various AI companies, and they will take, $10,000 investments, $20,000 investments, $100,000 investments from people like you and me, and indirectly invest in these open AI companies, all completely legal and completely scrutinized. They've applied for that ability. That is going to be a game changer. So not only are the rich and famous, so-called, or the smart or sophisticated investors have been able to make tons of money on AI, but people like you and me will be able to. And we're going to see if that application goes through. It may even have, I'm even making a guess here, it may have an effect on the gambling market because, as you know, gambling on everything has just surged by hundreds and hundreds of percentage points to where you can legally gamble on just about anything happening, even elections or what time something's going to happen. It's been wide open, and it's concerning because it's turning nations of young, especially young men, into gamblers on things that don't even matter. And now, if this opens up under the Power Law Corporation, you can have people who are small-time investors move them away from gambling on stupid things that don't make any sense and that can be illegally rigged on us, like we know with the NFL and certainly in the NBA and the basketball, the number of players that are being bribed to throw games or to purposely miss a shot here and there. Maybe some of this gambling money can be directed towards real investment that results in companies becoming more productive, hiring people, etc. So let's see where that goes. Another shift that we're seeing that mainstream media doesn't like to report on, there now there's more and even more medical associations now wanting to bring out and suggesting that the whole area of physically, surgically, and chemically transing the kids, they're saying that, as some political parties are saying and some countries are now saying, that we respect we acknowledge the right of adults to have these kind of changes. That is certainly the right of adults, but kids under 19 or in some jurisdictions under 18 should be protected, and these procedures should not be allowed. So more medical associations coming out, and along with that, now it's now the real scrutiny on so many of these interventions medically that have been foisted upon young people by thousands of doctors around the world. There's an article by Caitlin Shelton. You might want to look that up. And what she's pointing out is that as we've known now, there's more and more people, more and more, especially young women, who are concerned about the whole, what should we call it, hormonal birth control that's been, promoted and going on, obviously, for probably 3 generations now. And with more and more science coming out and more research, that the early introduction of hormonal birth control methods really has an impact now. We've been seeing it for 3 generations. Many girls as young as 13 are encouraged to go on this. The recent report shows that among sexually active 15 to 19-year-olds, about 50% are now on these hormonal birth control drugs, and girls are looking at the fact that, they start this at 13, look at the rates by the time they're 30 that are having to look at in vitro fertilization, and wondering why there's just more and more studies going on looking at this. And all I'm saying is we should be open-minded and look at the studies, and don't be like mainstream media and go berserk and start attacking women who are wanting to look into this. And some of the mainstream media, it's almost like they're saying just shut up and take the pill. Young women are more and more looking scientifically into this and are raising some concerns. Let's support open research. Let's support true science and see if there are some issues here that need to be dealt with. Looking at that, that's going to be an ongoing movement here. Well, one of Canada's federal ministers, a guy by the name of Evan Solomon, and he's more or less got federal jurisdiction related to AI. And I know Evan, actually can consider him a friend, really. He's saying there should be more investigation into, did OpenAI give the proper warnings relative to the terrible situation, the tragic situation in Tumble Ridge, where the transgendered biological male slaughtered so many young people. And, how about, sure, let's take a look at that. Could there be better warning systems? But why is there a reluctance to look at the whole issue of transgendered, especially young people or older? And is there an effect of these SSRI drugs that they have to take to when they go through this transgender? Why is there such a reluctance to look at the effect of these drugs? And if it's not turning people, there's been so many now transgender-related murders and mass shootings, all people are saying is, why can't we take a look? But mainstream media, again, goes berserk on certain things. So my word to Evan Solomon is take a breath, look back. Yes, look at the stuff you're looking at, but let's also have some intelligent research on the use of these SSRIs. Well, if you're traveling internationally, back and forth, Canada to the U.S., because of the Democrats shutting down the proceedings and shutting down spending, in the U.S., one of these government shutdowns. The Global Entry Program, which includes Nexus, which is a program that I had the honor of working on and helping with in terms of fine-tuning when I was Minister of international, not just international trade, but also Minister of Public Safety. Apparently, more and more airports now warning that while the democratic shutdown in the U.S. Is in effect, Nexus programs, they don't have the manpower and the woman power to conduct those programs, so our Nexus cards may not be working for us for a while. That's kind of sad, but that's just something to give you a heads up on as you're traveling. Well, the Canadian government has announced they're going to do a multi-million dollar study. They're going to go back and forth across the country. It's all on men's health, which is good. Let's look at men's health. And they've come out with a stunning statistic. They said in 2023, 75,000 men died prematurely. What? Just a sec. In 2023, 75,000 men died prematurely. What are they basing on that? Because they've looked at the stats and they said, well, men aren't living as long as women, so something must be happening. Look, let's take a look at men's health. That's a great idea. But can I also just tell that anytime I see the federal government do a massive study on something, I get a little worried of what their recommendations might be. So keep an eye on it. And ask this federal government also go back to the beginning of time. Women have outlived men. Hello, it's still happening. When we visit our loved ones in the seniors' homes, there's far more women there than there are men. I lovingly tell my wife it's like God's gift to women is that men pass away a little earlier and women get a few more years of peace. So keep an eye on where that men's study is going to go. Well, Ghislaine Maxwell, of course, continues to be in the news. Now, this time she is using her lawyers to stop the release of about 90,000 more pages. Boy, the Epstein files is the gift that keeps on giving. 90,000 more pages she does not want released for who knows what reasons. All the more reason maybe we should be saying they should be released. Those of you who are regular watchers and listeners here, you will know that it was a while ago I raised the issue of what's called Zorro Ranch that Epstein owned near Santa Fe. And I've been saying keep an eye on that because there's all kinds of things. Epstein owned that ranch for years and years. Rumors about all kinds of things going on there, mainly rumors about the numbers of actors that were going up there, Hollywood celebrities. And again, mainstream media does not like to call out Hollywood celebrities because mainstream media loves to publish the statements that most celebrities make about government, about extremism in terms of the environment and all these things. So mainstream media doesn't like Hollywood celebrities ever cast in a negative light. But now orders have been signed, the Attorney General, and down there in New Mexico, there's going to be more and more coming out about Zorro Ranch. So as I predicted, and very few outlets picked up on, and now it's a for real thing. Keep an eye on what's going to be happening there with these 90,000 more pages coming out. Well, in the presidential run-up in the Democrat Party, they keep, there's a lot of speculation. Is it going to be the Governor Newsom out of California? Is it going to be Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, also known as AOC? She continues to run into problems and had a very bad time just a couple days ago at a hearing on Friday, and she was asked a pretty basic question about the U.S. supporting Taiwan, and she completely flubbed the answer. She got, even CNN is saying she kind of blew it, so she went on to social media, did a really extensive, tried to recover on that. Her explanation wasn't any better, and unfortunately she's being ridiculed now because there's the clear sound of snoring in the background when she's doing this from home. Look, I get lots of background noise on some of my podcasts here, as some of you know. I don't think snoring has been one of them, so it just goes from bad to worse for AOC. We'll see what's going to happen there. If you look at over at LiveBlog, Jacob Magid has published the fact that Tucker Carlson has now apologized, a rare move for Tucker Carlson. He just said on an interview with the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Ambassador Huckabee, Tucker accused a former prime minister of Israel of having been a visitor of Epstein's, and that has been completely disproved now. This is former Prime Minister Herzog. They must have threatened him with a mega billion-dollar lawsuit, is what I'm saying, because he's actually apologized. So Tucker Carlson apologizing for saying a former Israeli prime minister had been a visitor with Epstein. Well, tomorrow there's a court in Canada that's going to make a ruling on whether an individual a prisoner by the name of Amanda Cooper, this again is a biological born man who's had various, his parts cut off and various things done to his sexual areas. And this is a multi-violent, multi-accused criminal, and he wants to be put in with women. When I was Minister of Public Safety, responsible for the prisons, I can tell you, to my knowledge, there was never a case where a biologically born man, especially with a record like this, Amanda Cooper, was put in with women. So let's watch and see how that goes in Canada. In Australia, a party that had been dismissed, a political party has been first came into being back in 2001. It's called the One Nation Party. Just from about the last election where they were scoring less than 6% in the polls, they're up to over 25% in the polls right now. Illegal immigration has been their rallying cry for years. They've actually even managed to affect the Socialist Party. The Socialist Party there in Australia back in 2008, because of One Nation Australia raising the issue about illegal immigration. There had been some changes made, and then the Socialists, the Labour Party, went back and allowed full open doors after 2008. The public in Australia reacted. The Labour Party after 2008 lost the next election. More stringent controls were put on immigration, and that's continued to rise and be an issue. And after the slaughter by the Islamic extremists at Bondi Beach, especially targeting Jews, and the typical socialist liberal comment out of Australia being, well, it must be a problem with gun control, so they started rounding up more firearms owned by innocent Australians. That has made Australians get really upset, and they're pushing back, and that's one of the reasons One Nation Australia has gone up. Pauline Hanson is the leader of that party. She was the leader for a while, then she was dumped for a while, then she's back in. Look, these opposition parties, if I can give them a bit of advice, you've also got to be realistic about other policies that you're looking at. And the fact that Pauline Hanson, actually now she's been restored as leader of that party, she may not be gone soon because they've passed a policy within their own party that makes her president of the party for life. So I don't know. You can be onto good issues, but you've got to be smart on the other issues. Also, we're going to see what happens there and if that affects the government. The Iranian situation continues to keep up. Open Doors reporting shows that just over the last year, the number of Christians who've been arrested in Iran has doubled. Iran only has about 800,000 Christians in a country of 92 million, and they are increasingly under persecution with very little being said. Also, mainstream media and all those leftist groups, the Hamas groups, and the Free Palestine groups that love to be out there on the streets, not a word. I met with a person who had fled Iran, met with him on just 2 days ago. Reliable reports now, it's upward of 60,000 young people have been murdered by the regime, and mainstream media still stays pretty quiet on it. Put along with that, the country of Armenia has now taken over it's obviously Islamist, has taken over the Holy Apostolic Church, one of the main churches there, and they say they are replacing it with a real church, they're calling it a pure church. A church that is state-centered, a state-centered church. Again, very little from mainstream media, even as bishops have been arrested, and the EU is largely silent, and it sends you a bit of a chill when I think that just last week, Prime Minister Carney announced that Canada is not a Christian nation, does not have Christian nationality in its DNA, and is called a civic nation, not a Christian nation. So let's see where that goes, and hoping things turn around in Armenia. But again, mainstream media being silent on that. If you attack Islamists, mainstream media will rush to your defense. Go after Christianity, not so much. Well, in the entertainment scene, if those of you who are lovers of Jelly Roll, and I'm not talking about that calorie-laden dessert, but Jelly Roll, the singer, At a recent concert, he talked about the fact that when he was young, going to church, 14 years old, he was baptized, and then, of course, he went into a life of drugs, sex, and rock and roll, which completely ruined him. He's returned to faith, and as he was doing his concert there in Philadelphia, the recent concert, a double rainbow appeared in the sky, and he says that's proof there that God is smiling at him. Well, it's good to see the rainbow getting other attention than just the usual rainbow effect. But anyway, interesting comments made there by Jelly Roll. But Kourtney and Khloe Kardashian also coming out in a recent interview saying they have, for some time now, been reading the Bible daily, having daily devotionals and times of prayer. So there we go with the Kardashians. Is that setting a new trend? We'll see. Folks, thanks for tuning in, and catch you tomorrow. Bye now.